Okay. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming to Olive Live Learn Thrive Wednesdays. Today we have two very special guests, both of whom are familiar to Olive. We have Phyllis, Ayman, and Rubina Chaudhry, and I am more than happy to introduce both of them today. And they will be sharing a conversation that will be titled Senior Matters, and this would be a monthly offering on the third Wednesdays of the month. Even when we are going to move towards more in-person programming, our plan is to have hybrid programs, especially between the time of 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Pacific Standard Time. So I'm more happy to introduce our speaker today, Phyllis Ayman. She is an international best-selling author, advocate, speaker, trainer, podcast host, speech and language pathologist, and certified dementia practitioner, trainer, and manager, who has worked in over 50 skilled nursing facilities, rehab centers. She is the author of Nursing Homes to Rehabilitation Centers, What Every Person Needs to Know, and also Overdue, Quality Care for Elder Citizens, and Dignity and Respect are our aging parents getting what they deserve. Phyllis is a staunch advocate and outspoken proponent for improved dignity, respect, quality care, and quality of life for our elder citizens. Phyllis is a dedicated family care planning strategist and mediator, assisting families make more informed care choices for themselves or their loved ones by providing valuable information from a unique inside perspective. In doing so, they become more effective advocates for their loved ones' care. Phyllis has had several articles published in professional trade and non-trade publications and has developed several courses. She also holds a registered trademark, Empathy, which teaches strategies for self-care, self-kindness, self-compassion, and self-forgiveness, all of which are critical ingredients for resilience, especially for caregivers. Our second speaker is Rubina Chaudhry. She is a passionate entrepreneur, philanthropist, advocate, wife, mother of 3, and grandmother of 4. She is the founder and president of Mars Services, an engineering consulting firm in Fullerton, California, and one of the founding members and president of Olive Community Services, a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide culturally appropriate programs and services to seniors, their families, and the community. In addition, Rubina co-hosts Seniors Straight Talk, a podcast on the Voice America Empowerment Channel that highlights the all-important topics that relate to seniors. As an only child, Rubina's passion for elder care stems from her experience of caring for her elders. Thank you so much for being here today, both Phyllis and Rubina. It is a pleasure to have you today, and I'm excited to see where this conversation goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Zainab. And we love you all. Thank you very much. And Assalamu alaikum. Hello, Olivers. We talked about a lot of topics, or Zainab touched on many topics just in the introduction that she gave for Phyllis and for myself. And I'd like to start by just getting our geographical bearings as to where we are. Some of you are in Southern California. A couple of you are in the Fullerton Olive Community Services office. Many of them because of COVID. Phyllis is in her home in Connecticut. And I'm in a hotel room in Vancouver, British Columbia, visiting my mother after 18 months absence. And so the passion and the compassion for caring for others, and also what I'm receiving from Phyllis is the emphasis on empathy that she is continuously reminding me to keep in mind for myself. Now, the purpose for today's session and what we propose to Zainab and to Olive Community Services is that in Olive, we are providing a lot of information for the individual Oliver, for the individual senior, how things impact them, their financial matters, this matters, their physical and all that. We have the Live, Learn, Thrive program has a broad offering. But one thing that as we evolve in our offerings that I personally felt was lacking was paying attention to the trends in the industry as they represent themselves in what's called the senior scape.
Oh, I think
this is what happens. Yeah. I had a phone call coming in. So
that's the beauty of doing all of this remotely, right?
That's the beauty of doing.
It's the beauty of it, right? It's in real time. Correct.
Real time. And the trends and news in the senior scape. And we feel that it's important to bring that to ourselves as well as to our community and to our Olivers. And this topic started with Phyllis doing a couple minutes news segment on the podcast. That was the beginning of this. So now we're expanding it. And Phyllis, can you share now a little bit more about what we're talking about in the senior scape and what are some of the emerging trends that you're seeing? And then we'll come back and talk to our group together to see where we take this whole initiative.
Sure. Thanks so much, Rubina, and thanks, Zainab, for that that introduction. It covered so much of what I do. And I also want to say, which we didn't include in that I'm a proud advisory board member for Olive Community Services. And if anybody's wondering, if they don't know me or haven't heard my name, why I'm in this conversation with Rubina, not only because of the radio show and the podcast that we did, but also because I am an advisory board member to Olive, and I'm proud to participate in so many of the programs. And Rubina and I, she tells me what's coming up and we bounce ideas off each other, and whatever I can lend in terms of ideas from my experience, I'm happy to do so. So it's interesting, Rubina, that you brought up the word seniorscape, because I'm wondering if people watching or listening would understand what that term means or what it encompasses. So maybe we should talk a little bit about what we mean by the seniorscape.
Go ahead.
So, it's like landscape, right? It comes from the same word, really. A landscape is a broad picture of what you see, right? Whether it's landscaping your home and you're creating a beautiful garden or looking at a landscape, it's a broad picture. And so the seniorscape, or using that word, really encompasses so many areas. It can encompass how people are living and where they're living, whether they're living at home and receiving care at home, whether they live in assisted living environments, nursing homes. I come from that space, so I'm very passionate about that and bring a lot of information about that space. If it's about the financial aspects of their senior lives, let's say, because there are many things that have to be considered in that area. I would say it also concerns their socialization, relationships, community. It's all part of this seniorscape that we want to address.
Yes, and it also encompasses a lot of policy in there as well. The policies that government policies, healthcare policies that impact the lives of seniors. And at the same time, another area that we want to touch base on is the economic opportunity that SeniorScape represents.
Correct.
It's really an economy by itself. And actually there is a term that's been coined by one of the persons that Phyllis knows. It's called the longevity economy.
Correct. And now it's valued, by the way. I had a conversation with this gentleman today, Jody Holtzman. It's valued, determined the value of it. The overall value of this longevity economy in the United States is estimated to be about $8.3 trillion. And in and of itself encompasses not only the value of what people buy, right? Because people think of economy about, what people buy and what they spend money on, but what services are needed to support older people, which also creates an economy. So it really encompasses all of that.
So this is really the whole SeniorScape. Actually, Phyllis credits me for that term. Is really a big, wide area that I feel that those of us in Olive need to touch base on, and then a piece at a time, take a deeper look at each one of the components. And it could be just as simple as picking what's in the news. Some of the areas that are very current right now, the aging in place.
Correct.
Aging in place is right now the thing. So then what happens to the nursing homes? What's the next way elders are going to live and elders are going to be cared for?
Correct.
What are some of the up and coming trends? And with so many elders and the potential that resides in elders, how is that going to be captured? It's not only going to be caring for them, it's how are we going to capture their, in just looking through my materials, I came across the article from one of our speakers we had some time back, Emmy Kiyota, and she writes about co-creating environments, empowering elders and strengthening communities.
Correct.
How much wealth of knowledge there is in seniors that we can empower them and we can strengthen communities and really not overlook that. They're not just there to be looked after, that they have a lot that they can give to us as well. Phyllis mentioned a couple other things.
I just wanted to interject at that point, if you don't mind, that it's not only, like we said, from a financial point of view, what they can contribute financially to the economy or the goods and services that are created to support seniors, which is obviously a large sector of our economy. But how can seniors or older adults work in providing mentorship in insights with not only within work environments, maybe the traditional way of, human resources thinking about the people that they employ, maybe there needs to be a shift in thinking about what older people or older adults who are experienced can contribute to those environments, and even taking people out of that environment, even if it's not for paid position, in this intergenerational programming. And how beautiful would it be, and how more robust and I think meaningful it would be for our society and our economy if younger people had the opportunity to interact with older people, even if it's in the classroom. There was an initiative, I think, several years ago that AARP began, trying to get people that were older adults, retired, to do volunteer work in classrooms. And while it seems like, oh, well, that's volunteer work, but what's created out of that has tremendous benefits for the economy going forward, whether it's education that younger people get in terms of insight or experience, or their ability to understand and communicate with older people, or building relationships. It has tremendous positive impact on our economy in general. So I think it's how we view older adults from a variety of ways, as well as you said, addressing the individual, the areas that impact older adults. And there are a lot of policy initiatives that are going on now, especially because COVID really highlighted some of the ills of nursing homes that we all knew before. Most people they can conjure up an image of what a nursing home is, or if they've known somebody in a nursing home, or ever worked in one, or visited somebody in one. And the hallmark of what nursing homes are is not a positive one. And I think COVID shone a light on that. And now there are several initiatives, something recently actually presented to Congress, to try and change the way nursing homes, traditional nursing homes function or are built or can be transformed to provide a more dignified environment with quality of care and quality of life.
Yes, I understand there are also initiatives on how the funding for senior care is allocated. And I think there are some initiatives where, Phyllis, what is it called, where the funding follows the person?
Oh, right. Money follows the person program.
Money follows the person.
Money follows the person program, for anybody who doesn't know, is that if a person is eligible for, let's say, Medicaid or some funding in the community, right, they don't have to move into a long-term care space to receive services that money would be allocated towards. So they could remain in their home and choose community services and pay for those services with those same funds. And that would be huge. Of course, the impact of that in terms of the future of nursing homes, which we don't have to get into in too much depth here, but it obviously would have tremendous impact on nursing homes, although there probably will always be a need for them. But that could be also an impetus for change, because if people don't want to go and there are more nursing homes that have fewer people, and it is a business, every business needs customers. So you have to pivot to appeal to your customer base.
And, I am just off the breadth of this whole topic, like most of us, other than Phyllis, we're novice to this area. And maybe Zainab, you've had some experiences, but just in elder care scape, we're learning as we go. We're learning as we go, and I am really, really, truly amazed. And one of the things that really surprised me when Olive had a session a couple Saturdays ago, the training session, where I found out the reason why this big push is behind driverless cars. We all hear about the driverless cars and the initiative and all the companies. It's because of elder people.
Right.
That there are more and more older people that they're going to need cars. And if they're driverless cars, then they will be using the driverless cars because they drive less. So that was news to me in the last seminar. But then the second part of that was when I had that same conversation with Phyllis following that seminar, was that it's not going to end there. Then they're going to need companions that go with them in those cars. So Correct. This is really, truly the cutting edge of senior care. And for those of us from our community, we're just beginning to touch the senior community. Right now, it's our parents that are seniors. Fast forward 10 years, it's going to be us. So this really is our time to learn and to do and to plan and to strategize, and we will be the beneficiaries. of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so just what you said about people who may be in a driverless car and need a companion is just what I was referring to in terms of contributing to the economy in different ways, because that creates jobs, that creates need, that creates jobs. So the reality is that longevity economy, as we started, is not just money spent, but the good. That's a perfect example of what goods and services would be needed to serve that community, to serve that economy.
And one of the opportunities in this longevity economy is for those of us in Olive that we want to serve the elders in the community is to take advantage of some of those opportunities and set up those services, and through that create opportunities for our elders to be gainfully employed, useful, giving advice, and also at the same time create resources to support Olive and its programs.
So Olive has an Olive Friends program where people visit Olivers in their homes. Is that correct?
Yes, they do. Yeah.
So, I mean, it would be interesting to me to find out, of course, you know your community better and you're on the other side of the country, is if there are any schools, local schools, who would be interested in having, of course, people have to look into their backgrounds and make sure they're vetted appropriately. But I mean, that could be an interesting I don't want to say activity, but an interesting purposeful use of time for an older person, if they could maybe even go speak in a classroom about their lifelong experiences, or if they have after school tutoring to offer to tutor in a particular area that's in their sphere of knowledge.
Wonderful opportunity. And I see Zainab taking notes. I think that's a real opportunity for us to develop a database from among our Olivers of their skills and of their availability, and then connect the dots. We've touched base on that program. As I said, we are an evolving and a growing organization, and that's definitely one of the things that would be very valuable, because those students need advice.
Absolutely.
Parents need support, teachers need support, and we have elders who would love to do that.
And the reality is, oftentimes kids don't take their own parents' advice, right?
Yeah, they'll take others' advice.
But they might take another person's advice, and that person, they really value that person. That person really becomes a mentor to them. And that could be a nice, like you say, a support for the parents who are trying to, steer their child in a certain direction. And maybe the child isn't really getting it, but another person from the community might be able to give them insights to broaden their view, and they might be more accepting of that.
And you're so right, Phyllis, and we have touched base on that as well, where we talked about a grandparent and grandchild, just like the big brother and
right,
the big brother concept, the student, right. And so those are all of the programs that as time goes, Olive is in good position to deliver, and I'm really proud of Olive organization and the staff that we have, and actually we are looking for additional staff members to expand our programs. We are appreciative of the support that community is giving us through funds and donations, but one of our founding goals for Olive is to make Olive self-sufficient for its operations, and then we will raise funds for capital. So this economy that we're talking about, the longevity economy, Olive is definitely going to be trying to work with it and through it, and see what advantages we can take.
Absolutely, and it would be wonderful, and I know we've talked about this, if other communities in around the country even could find a way to develop and establish a community program like Olive, where they're serving the seniors in their community.
Well, Phyllis, I'll share with the group that with your guidance and being an advisory board member, we are going to run an expansion program either this fall or shortly thereafter for expanding the program. And I will call on to the seniors, elders, those who are on the call, please volunteer your whatever time that you can to help us design these programs and deliver these programs. Because Olive as an organization, we have made the foundation, we are ready, and I think we're ready to expand.
Absolutely, because you've had your 5 years of age. I try not to use the word old. So you're 5 years of age, and that is certainly an impressive milestone.
It is definitely, and we are ready to expand. So anybody who is listening and who would like to have a program in their community, please send a message to Olive and we will reach out. And Zainab, where do they send a request? What's the email?
If they have any requests or messages, they can send it to
messages, request, or anything.
Yeah, I will put my email in the chat box. They can send
Okay.
it. I can forward it to both of you.
Okay, and or info@olivecs.org, because we would love to provide services for you, and we would love you to help us provide services for everyone else as well. You don't have to be an Olive board member to help the program. And
Correct.
You don't have to be only a recipient of Olive programs. I'm a recipient of Olive programs. I also work to make more programs happen. So we can do both roles at the same time. And that is elders giving back, giving to the community.
Absolutely. And there's, as we said earlier, so many people with so many talents and abilities, insights that can really probably bring good creative ideas to that process.
Actually, I would like to, if those on the call, if you have any questions or ideas, start putting them in the chat, because soon we're going to have a conversation as well. Zainab, do you have any questions so far on the conversation we're having?
I have a comment for sure.
Please.
I think that one of the biggest successes for Olive is that it was started by Olivers themselves, because you wanted a program that you didn't see in the community, right? So it was created by a group of good friends who knew that elder care needs some, TLC in the community, and you created this wonderful organization. And I think that is the best thing that we can do, is being the change that we wish to see in the world, right?
Right.
So being that voice. So when we are brainstorming, not many people realize, but your ideas matter. And the fact that we come from multicultural backgrounds, your choices matter. And, if you don't advocate for your choices, then no one is going to, make them happen. It starts with that brainstorming and, ideas and empowering each other. Like usually, culturally, we don't speak unless we're asked to speak. That happens in many communities. Or I've seen working in a hospital setting, people advocating for their dietary choices more often, because they say, unless we ask for it, how is it going to be taken seriously, right? If I don't eat certain foods, then let people know you don't eat certain foods. How will they know? And how will they educate themselves? So I think that is number one takeaway that I have from this conversation, is everyone sharing what are their challenges, what would they like to see if they were to have to opt for a nursing home, what kind of facilities or resources that nursing home should be able to provide so that you feel comfortable going there, or you're leaving your family member there, or having a nursing home that caters all our needs together. So I think those are the things that are coming up in my mind when I hear both of you. And again, empowering, I think that is another very important notion, is empowering our seniors. Hey, we can do it ourselves. We don't need anyone helping us, like just teach us how and we'll do it. And I'm so proud of everyone present in the room today. Like we survived almost 2 years of these Zoom sessions without that many technical issues, because people caught up, they were willing to learn. And here we are, we have people trying Zoom, we have Facebook being used, Instagram, and YouTube, all these platforms that may not be as easy to catch up on, but everyone has apps on their phones, they've registered virtually, they've communicated virtually. So
because we're intelligent people.
Yes, you are. And that intelligence is valued. And again, we empowered them too, like, hey, you can do this over the phone. When I've talked to a few of our Olivers while setting up their Zoom accounts, that it takes a few minutes of your time, you can do this. Most of the time it's just the willingness and understanding that you can do this yourself. Nobody will need to help you. I can walk you through it, but you can do this. And
you can do this. And where I want to take that, Zainab, that's an excellent point that you bring. And a concept is that sometimes we want to do things, but there's no container per se to do it in or with. There's no organization that does what you want to do. Like we talked about seniors having the resources, but there's no container, no avenue for them to use and apply for part-time jobs, this and that. So that is where I think we come in as Olive. We created the container. Olive is this container,
right?
Organization, whatever the terminology, to leverage and to jump off of, to develop and deliver all the services. So what we need from each one of our Olivers to know, what are their needs? Would they like to work part-time? Would they like to volunteer their services in a school or whatever it is? Would they like to start a home-based business? And then we can help them grow it. We can help them bring volunteers, manage it, all that. So we can help as an organization to containerize ideas and bring them to market. So,
great idea.
So that relationship, that two-way relationship between the Olivers, those who need services, the elders. I don't say seniors, Phyllis, old people. Phyllis likes the word elders better. So near her, don't say old, okay? And, so that we know, and we start by doing pilot programs. And I am sure that in any neighborhood that you live, there are schools and there are teachers who would welcome support in the classroom. And I can also assure you that in any neighborhood that you live in, there are parents who would welcome homework support for their children.
Absolutely.
It could be as simple as, you offer your home, 2 or 3 kids come for an hour to grandma or auntie, and you help them with their homework. And just think of the vitality the person has, the elder, who's saying, okay, I have purpose. I have these 2 children, they're going to come from 3 to 4, and their life becomes purpose-driven. So all those opportunities are here, and I think we can grow branches from Olive to really, really serve the broadest need of seniors and their family and their community, as is stated in our mission.
I agree. And I was just thinking as you were talking, I'm not saying that this was the purpose of it, but as you're speaking, I'm thinking, let's say a person was able to develop some kind of little tutorial group in their home with 3 or 4 people, 3 or 4 children, and let's say, you know, the parent paid $5 a session, or, you know, twice.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
could be an income. It could be the beginning of some, even if it's a small amount of income generating activity,
Yes.
which could be very beneficial.
Oh, definitely. In Olive, we are always for both, for service and for revenue, because to provide service, it takes money.
Right.
And to, you know, one option is of raising funds, which we are, but there is a higher option of creating value, creating service, creating opportunities, and raising funds that way for the persons working as well as the organization. You know, there are many people in all communities that I believe would like to have part-time jobs, you know, 2 hours here, 4 hours there, that someone like Olive can work towards and creating those opportunities. You know, I'm an entrepreneur in this conversation. Okay.
Right, I know you are, but I'm thinking, so I'm thinking that might even be something that Olive, I know Olive, you moved your space recently, correct? And if there was some way to organize something like that in the Olive space, and a way to have the person come volunteer their time, have 3 or 4 children come, pay, like I say, $5 or $10 a session, whatever, and that could be revenue producing for Olive.
We have our manager, our director of Olive Base. Olive Space is called Olive Base, Phyllis.
Okay.
Yes. And that's Shameen Sayed. She's right there. And actually, she is calling from Olive Base. And what you see behind her are the bookshelves. And I think on one of the bookshelves should be your book too.
Oh, okay.
So that's our Olive store. This is our Olive Base. And yes, those kind of programs will be there. And I know in the past, Zainab has said, and I've talked about it to, you know, my children and myself, that we would like some, you know, specialty language classes. Now we have a space and we just have to find a teacher, and Zainab will be able to organize it and make it happen.
Yes, our Olivers, in one of their, when we made vision boards for 2021, they said they love to teach. So
there you go.
So
Yes.
From there, we factored that, you know, having after school tutoring or summer programs, enrichment programs where they're teaching things like sewing, knitting, you know, embroidery. We recently had a senior share day where everybody shared what they've been up to in the pandemic, and people shared their embroidery work or them sewing, you know, little baby outfits or arts and crafts and painting. So all those things require time, attention, which kids love. And our, you know, our Olivers are able to provide that for them. And, you know, it's a great way to share your knowledge and language. Like you said, there's so many languages out there that are dying as we speak because they're not being spoken enough or taught enough or, you know, read enough. So those are great ways for us to, again, bring back that intergenerational connection and use the space effectively in that manner. So many people were homeschooling during these times, and they have very flexible schedules like our Olivers during different times of the day. So those are definitely in the works. We're just waiting for it to be a safer time so that we can, you know, start planning those robust programs. The ideas are there in place, definitely. It's just a matter of time that they start.
And you know, everything happens at the right time. And we're talking futuristic, but at the same time, I want all of us in Olive and the Olivers, the attendees, to be proud of what we've done and where we've come, because it's not always only thinking future, you know, and everyone has been just amazing in bringing Olive to where we are. And yes, now having the office space, the Olive Base, will make it possible for us to offer more programs, after school, some programs, day programs where elders can come and spend quality time together, and everything. You know, as I said, we've spent the 5 years creating the container.
Right.
And it has required, you know, everything from its foundational documents to the very first of programs. And we are evolving and we continue to evolve. And in this moment, I also want to thank Phyllis, and I'm grateful for the moment that she and I met, because meeting someone who is an expert in the area where we are all novices has been just a blessing. You know, that someone, and then we have few other people who are on our advisory board that have just been a blessing as well, for us to do the things that we're doing. And hopefully through that we can have more successes and less of a learning curve.
You know, and I just want to add, I know that on a personal level, Rubina, that I've been able to give you insights with when it comes to caring for your mother, who's
yes, you have,
at a distance. You're visiting her now, but you hadn't seen her in quite some time. And those that could be another relevant conversation that we can bring to one of these programs, which is, how do you care for an older parent who is at a distance? Because not everybody lives within you know, a radius that's traveling, comfortable for traveling. And you know, we touched on nursing homes, and I know in certain cultures it's really not something that people really do, which is move an older person, their parent or an older person, into a nursing home. But I just want to say that there are circumstances when that happens. It has to happen. Either the person is at a distance or the care needs are so great that they need to be in a different kind of environment. So even though people think that that's something they might not do or shouldn't do, or there are cultural expectations or religious expectations, sometimes the needs of the person is really what dictates where that person's going to be living.
I'm glad. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Now, what were you going to say, Sanam?
I'm glad you brought that up, because we do have an Oliver that shared recently. He was a part of our Oliver story time, and he shared how his wife had Alzheimer's and she had to be moved to a facility, even though he was doing, you know, 100% of her caregiving. So those are very, and spending almost like $6,000 a month out of pocket for that long-term care. And it's such a real scenario that hits home for us. Definitely something we can learn from in that case.
You know, definitely. And we always talk about taking care of the elders, you know, all the things that are involved in it. But at the same time, Phyllis has brought to our attention that we need to take care of ourselves, the caregivers as well. And the empathy initiative that she has. And I've been kind of a guinea pig recipient of her strategy. And I really want to share from my heart that it has been helping me. And I've had conversations with her. She's been helping me strategize. And it is not easy to see. Well, anyway, I don't want to go there. It's not easy.
No, it's not easy. And it's actually a habit that you have to develop. It's not something that, because we all have habits, we do everything habitually, and we do a lot of things by routine, mindlessly even, we just do them. So in order to really develop a strategy for self-care for yourself, it really has to do with developing a habit, and that takes time. It takes practice. It's not something that is just done. By the way, I'll just ask you, Rubina, if you remembered the little exercise I gave you to see about breaking a habit. And if you haven't done it, that's fine, because that just goes to show how we do things by habit. Do you remember it?
I don't even remember what you told me.
Which is,
Remind me.
I actually thought you were going to say that, which is why I asked the question.
Remind me.
So I had suggested how hard it is to break a habit. And I suggested that if you just tried to eat with your, not eat with your left hand, to put your fork, replace your fork on the plate after you put food in your mouth and chew and swallow it, giving your system a chance to recover, because there is such a thing as mindful eating, which I didn't even, go that route in our conversation. It was really just about breaking a habit and how difficult it is to even remember to do that. And that's just a simple thing.
There is just so much, Phyllis, that we can touch base on and bring to our listeners, our friends, and our Olivers. But we're coming to about 10 minutes left in the program. Zainab, I'd like to know if there are questions that Olivers would like to ask Phyllis or myself, and what they would like, whether they would like a conversation like this once a month, and what are some of the topics that they might.
One topic that definitely is heavy on our hearts right now is one of our Olivers lost her spouse recently, and I can understand the enormous grief and, that major, what a major loss of that nature can affect an Oliver that we dearly love. And, it brings up on the forefront, how prepared can we be mentally, physically, emotionally for something of that nature? And, what can we do in supporting an Oliver who is going through grief, and also what we should be doing to be prepared ourselves. Those are hard facts. We've touched on that conversation in the past where, one spouse knows all the financial aspects or all those paperwork related things. And when that spouse is gone, what does that other spouse, is that person able to take on those responsibilities and even knows those passwords? And sometimes, some cases, some scenarios. So I think that's one topic that I would like to suggest in future conversations. Anybody else in the room?
I just want to say that I have an expression that people should plan by choice, not by crisis. So even though it may not be a total loss of a spouse, but even finding out that a spouse has a serious illness, which may change how things function on a day-to-day basis. Not that we want to think about those things happening, but we all do buy car insurance or medical insurance. So in a way, we do plan for these things, and this is no different. So I think that would be an important topic to touch on. I actually have a whole training of it in one of my courses, which is that we could, I could introduce some of the information here if you wanted me to.
Okay. Thank you for your offer, Phyllis. Any other questions from any of the attendees? Hands raised or just speak up. Did you learn anything?
Yes, definitely.
Who was that?
Zarina, me.
Zarina, thank you. How are you?
Great, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Good,
Thanks.
good.
It's nice to see your glowing face. Last week you was totally stressed to see your mom, and it makes us feel happy to see you happy.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, I've been able to visit with her daily.
Good, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you both of you for such a wonderful conversation. I really enjoyed it and learned a lot. I mean, I always learn from you, Rubina. So every day I learn something from you. So
well, I'm missing our walks. Any Anyone else? Any comments, thoughts?
Phyllis, can you go over again what you call that? Money follows, funds follow?
Oh, the money follows
was
the
it?
person program. So
Okay, yeah.
we will see if it will become an actual national legislative endeavor, you know, and go, you know, pass the legislature. And if I don't think the president has signed it, I know they were talking about it, but what it is that if you're eligible for Medicaid or any kind of financial services, you don't have to move into a nursing home or our care environment to receive those services. You can remain in the community and access that money to pay for services that you can get while you remain at home, which is a tremendous initiative. It makes a lot of sense. They've been talking about it for a long time.
It does.
Thank you. Yes.
And there are a lot of alternative housing initiatives as well, the greenhouse project, and you know, there are lots. As I said, you know, in this scape, there's just so much information, and I really truly believe that this Olive is here at the right time.
Right.
This is the right time. This is the right time for us to get together and to really be at the cutting edge of providing senior support services.
So I just want to add one thing, since you brought out the greenhouse project, that if anybody is thinking that they have a loved one that needs to move into a different kind of living environment, I would just suggest that they look to see in their community or in the surrounding area if there is something called a greenhouse home, because it's a very different type of, it's not a traditional nursing home. It doesn't have the hallmark of what we think of as a nursing home to be. It's a very different kind of environment. And it's something that is, if they had to explore that, I would recommend that people see if there is a greenhouse home, or you can contact the Pioneer Network, which is about culture change. And there's also something called the Greenhouse Project, where they can probably let people know where some of those, I think there are about 300 of them around the country now, with more being built all the time. So I just wanted to add that information.
No, there are just so many. There are prefab units that elders can get in. Minka homes.
That's built
that you can put in put in the backyard, and senior can live right next to the family, and it's adjusts to the needs. Huh?
I've seen one.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a small living space, but it's functionally appropriate in size to meet a person's needs as they get older.
Well, thank you very much, Zainab, and I know we're getting there in time, so I want to give you control.
Yes, thank you. There is a little comment from Sister Rahana Wahab. She's saying there is a greenhouse community in Southern California, not Orange County, but not too far. She can't remember the city at this point, but there is. And what was the other homes you mentioned? Can you spell that?
Minka Homes, M-I-N-K-A. I believe that's how it's spelled.
Yeah, that's how it's spelled.
Both of those initiatives are the initiative of Dr. Bill Thomas, and who is a true visionary and really understands about providing quality living environments for people as they get older.
I see. I mean, it sounds like those tiny homes that you hear about all the time, right? Similar to those small.
I just recently read his book, and it is amazing. And I think Shamim has that. Phyllis, can you put that name of the book in the chat?
The one that you wrote, the one that I suggested you read? Sure.
Yeah. It's
In the Arms of Elders.
In the Arms of Elders by
Dr.
Bill
Bill Thomas.
Yeah. In the Arms of Elders by Dr. Bill Thomas. It's really, written as a fable, It's really a nice
It's like
read and
it's a parable. It's a
Parable.
Yeah.
parable.
And I just want to say, of course, Rubina, you know this. I've met him. We've become friends. He wrote the foreword to my most recent book, and he's really an extraordinarily kind and gracious and warm guy and a true visionary. So it's worth reading anything he writes because you can see it through you can feel it and experience it through his writing. It's very special. Wouldn't you say, Rubina?
Yes, no, In the Arms of Elders is really, really a great book. I loved it.
Would you recommend it as a book club read?
Yes, let's
Sure,
do that.
absolutely.
Let's do that, Zainab. Let's do
Yes.
that.
Yeah, we're all, and the other book that I was thinking of when you guys were talking about habit, I've heard about a book called The Power of Habit.
There's The Power of Habit. There's Atomic Habits.
Okay, think about those.
There are a couple of books about habit. Absolutely.
That would be fun.
Zainab, there's also a movie that I'd like you to consider. It's called Palms, I think. It's on Netflix right now.
Palms, P-A-L-M-S?
No, P-O-M-S.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, watch it first. Phyllis, I think I told Shamin
Yes, you
and
did.
Zarina, did you watch it?
Not yet.
You were the first one I reached out to.
Sorry, dear.
Oh,
I've been so busy.
There's a message in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not a sitting person. That's my issue. I just can't
Yeah.
sit for more than half an hour.
You can stand and watch it. Zainab, give an assignment to watch that movie
Don't
because
make
out
us
of
see
that, something
Okay.
wonderful is going to come.
Well, nowadays they have something called standing tables, so maybe we
Yes.
can listen to those.
They
Yeah.
have standing tables. That's correct.
Yep.
So,
Oh,
I mean, I
wonderful.
get it. Throughout the meeting, my watch keeps reminding me it's time to stand up. So
Okay.
it's a
Sure.
real deal thing. But thank you, Zarina Auntie, for sitting through an olive meeting. This is almost an hour long. I appreciate you for doing that. Talking about movies, tomorrow's session, my dear Olivers, is actually we will be watching a short film during class. It will be a 15-minute movie. It's an international short film. So there will be subtitles and we will be discussing the plot and the moral and, our observations. So that will be happening tomorrow. So hopefully it's a good start to, those movie discussions we used to do back in the day. But with that, thank you again, both Phyllis and Rubina, for your insight for this conversation. And I hope, by next session, we have more engagement because the whole point is to have the conversation, make it interactive and, learn from each other. At the end of the day, that's what we want to do is learn and make it happen.
Right.
And that's what we're all about, being more proactive about it. So again, thank you. Have a good rest of the day and we will see you all tomorrow.
Thank you, Zainab. Thank you.
Thank you, Zainab. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Olive Community Services is a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Southern California that provides culturally appropriate services to seniors, their family, and the community. Through its physical and virtual interactive programs, Olive engages participants in a variety of ways that promotes health and well-being. To learn more about Olive Community Services, to get involved, or to make a donation, please visit www.olivecs.org or email info@olivecs.org. Be a change maker, and together, let's live, learn, and thrive.